Have you ever wondered why so many people spend their entire lives chasing success, money, recognition, and comfort, yet still feel empty inside? Why do people work harder every year, achieve bigger goals, and collect more possessions, but somehow never find the peace they have been searching for? One day, a young man came to Jesus with these very questions. His face was filled with worry, and his heart was burdened by fear. He knelt before Jesus and said, "Lord, I am still young, but my mind is constantly troubled. I worry about my future, my career, my family, and everything that might go wrong. If life already feels this difficult, won't it become even harder as I grow older? Is there any way to find lasting peace?" Jesus looked at him with compassion and asked, "Tell me, where is this burden you speak of?" The young man replied, "Lord, it is inside me." Jesus smiled and said, "If you can see it, then perhaps you can learn to understand it." Before the young man could ask another question, one of Jesus' disciples approached and quietly shared some news. Jesus stood up and said, "Come with me. Today you will discover the answer you seek." The young man followed Jesus to a small house on the edge of a village. When they arrived, many people had gathered outside. Inside the house lay an elderly man whose life was coming to an end. His family surrounded him, some crying quietly, others sitting in silence. When the old man saw Jesus enter the room, a peaceful smile appeared on his face. "Lord," he whispered, "thank you for coming. I know my time on earth is almost finished, and before I leave this world, I want to understand something. I want to understand my life." Jesus sat beside him and gently held his hand. The old man took a deep breath and began speaking. "When I was a child, life felt simple. I remember running through fields, laughing with friends, and enjoying every moment. I had no money, no status, no achievements, yet my heart felt free. But as I grew older, people began comparing me to others. They told me I needed to become successful, respected, and important. They told me I needed to prove myself. Their words stayed in my mind, and eventually I made a promise to myself that I would become successful no matter what it took. I worked harder than anyone around me. I sacrificed comfort, sleep, and even relationships. There were many failures, but I refused to quit. Eventually, my business succeeded, my wealth grew, and people began to admire me. Those who once ignored me suddenly respected me. Those who once doubted me now praised me. For a while, it felt wonderful. Then, I met the woman who became my wife. She brought joy into my life, unlike anything I had ever known. Together, we built a family, and when our children were born, they became the center of my world. I wanted to give them every opportunity I never had, so I worked even harder. I earned more money, expanded my business, bought more property, and continued climbing higher. Every time I achieved one goal, I created another. Every time I reached a destination, I discovered a new mountain to climb. Years passed, and I became one of the most successful men in the city. People admired my achievements, but then something happened that changed everything. One day, my wife became seriously ill. We believed she would recover, but she didn't. She passed away, and suddenly all my wealth felt meaningless. No amount of money could remove that pain. No achievement could bring her back. For months, I felt lost. My children helped me continue living, and eventually I found the strength to move forward. Yet a question began following me everywhere. Who am I? Why am I here? What is the purpose of all this? I had spent decades building a successful life, but I still didn't understand life itself. I often thought about seeking God. I wanted to know Him more deeply. I wanted to understand the truth. But I always told myself the same thing. Not today, maybe next year, maybe after one more business deal, maybe after one more goal, maybe after retirement. There would always be time later, but later never came. The years continued passing. My body grew weaker, my strength faded, and suddenly, I found myself here, lying on this bed, facing the end of my journey. Now I realize something that frightens me. I spent my entire life preparing for everything except eternity. Lord, is it too late for me? Can a man who spent so many years chasing temporary things still find peace before he dies? The room became completely silent. Jesus looked at the old man with deep compassion and said, "My friend, your greatest mistake was not that you earned wealth or built a successful life. Your greatest mistake was believing that you had unlimited time. You kept postponing what mattered most. You believed there would always be another tomorrow. But tomorrow is never promised. Many people spend their lives preparing for the future while forgetting to live today. They spend years chasing things they cannot keep and neglect the one who gives them life itself. Yet listen carefully. God's mercy is greater than your regrets. As long as there is breath in your lungs, there is hope. You must now let go of everything. Let go of your successes. Let go of your failures. Let go of your fears, your regrets, your pride, and your disappointments. Everything you earned will remain here. Everything you built will remain here. Your money will stay here. Your possessions will stay here. Your reputation will stay here. The only thing that can cross into eternity is your faith. Place your trust in God. Accept His love. Surrender your heart to Him. Stop looking backward at your mistakes and stop fearing what comes next. Instead, rest in the knowledge that God has loved you every day of your life, even when you ignored Him. He has never abandoned you. He has always been near. Tears filled the old man's eyes as he listened. For the first time in years, the burden he carried began to lift. He whispered, "Now I understand. I spent my life chasing things that were temporary while ignoring the one thing that was eternal." Jesus smiled and said, "Understanding is the beginning of wisdom." The old man closed his eyes, and a deep sense of peace settled over him. Moments later, he quietly took his final breath. There was no fear on his face, no panic, and no regret. Only peace. The family members wept, but they could see something had changed. The old man had left this world with a calmness they had never seen before. Jesus then turned to the young man who had accompanied him. "Did you find your answer?" he asked. The young man nodded. "Yes, Lord. I understand now that happiness and suffering are both part of life. Success does not guarantee peace, and failure does not destroy it. Real peace comes from knowing God. If I spend my life chasing only temporary things, I may gain the world and still lose what matters most. I must begin walking with God today, not someday." Jesus smiled and replied, "Exactly. God is not far away. He is closer than you think. Every sunrise is a gift from Him. Every breath is a reminder of His presence. When you pray, He listens. When you trust Him, He guides you. When you forgive others, He strengthens you. When you love people, His love flows through you. Do not waste your life waiting for the perfect moment to seek God, because the perfect moment is now. Do not allow fear of the future to steal the joy of today. Live with gratitude, walk in faith, love generously, forgive quickly, trust deeply. And remember this: a person who places his life in God's hands does not need to fear death, because death is not the end of the story. It is only the beginning of eternity. From that day forward, the young man's life was transformed forever, and he never forgot the lesson he learned in that small house, that the greatest treasure a person can possess is not wealth, fame, or success, but a heart that knows God and a soul that trusts Him completely.